this video, we're going to assemble and set up the Riprock 20-inch bicycle. This video contains important information about assembly. You should watch this video in its entirety before your child's first ride. It is also imperative that you perform all of the safety checks shown at the end of this video. Read the Specialized Bicycle Owner's Manual because it contains additional important general information and instructions which you should follow. If you do not have a copy of the Owner's Manual, you can download it at no cost at specialized.com or obtain it from your nearest authorized Specialized retailer or rider care. You should also thoroughly read the Riprock Coaster Assembly and Setup Guide. Both of these documents ship with the Riprock. Assembly of this bicycle requires experience in the use of basic tools and experience in assembling a bicycle. If you do not have such experience, it should be assembled by an authorized Specialized retailer. To properly tighten a bolt without a torque wrench, each bolt or nut must be turned a specific amount to get to its ideal torque range. However, if you have and know how to properly use a torque wrench, you can use that instead. The correct torque values are shown in the Assembly and Setup Guide. The tools needed to properly assemble the Riprock are in the bike box and include a 5mm, 6mm Allen key, and an open-end wrench that includes a 13mm and 15mm opening. You also need a cross-tip screwdriver to install the reflectors and optionally a cutting tool to more easily remove the packaging. When starting to tighten a bolt or nut, it should first bend loosely without any tension, so the beginning of the tension can be clearly identified. Start turning the bolt or nut clockwise until some tension is felt. As soon as any tension is felt, tighten the bolt or nut the specified amount of rotation as shown in the Assembly and Setup Guide. When tightening, the tool should leave a noticeable impression in the palm of your hand. With that said, let's begin. Remove the bike from the box and make sure you have all the necessary parts for assembly. Remove all the packaging material from the bike. Page 3 of the Assembly and Setup Guide has a list of all the parts that's shipped in the bike box. Make sure the fork is facing the correct way. The stem comes pre-assembled on the bike. The handlebar assembly must be installed on the stem. Using a 6mm Allen key, loosen the faceplate bolts to remove the faceplate from the stem. Place the handlebar against the stem and center the knurled section of the handlebar against the stem. Then reinstall the faceplate and bolts. Thread each bolt through the faceplate and into the stem body until they are equally finger tightened, and the upper and lower gaps between the stem body and faceplate are equal. Make sure the knurled section of the handlebar is centered with the stem and the handlebar angle is between vertical and in line with the fork. In an alternating cross pattern, tighten each faceplate bolt approximately a half turn. Then repeat the cross pattern to torque to 55 inch-pounds or 6.2 Newton-meters, which translates to approximately 1/8 of a turn. After the front wheel is installed, double check to make sure the stem is aligned with the front tire. Locate the rotation indicator on the tire and orient it so the arrow is pointing forward. Loosen the front wheel axle nuts, then insert the front wheel axle ends into the fork dropouts and make sure the axle is fully and equally seated. Engage the wheel retention washers, then tighten the wheel axle nuts approximately 3/8 of a turn past the point where you start feeling tension. Hold the front end of the bike up. The wheel should be centered within the fork crown, rotate freely and not wobble. Remove the seat post and saddle assembly from its packaging and insert it into the seat tube with the narrow end of the saddle pointing forwards to the front of the bike. Set the saddle height at a position that you feel is the correct height for your child. Tighten the seat collar approximately 1 1/4 to 1 1/2 turns past the point where you start feeling tension. Now check the height of the saddle by having your child sit on the saddle. While there is an acceptable range of saddle height, the ideal position to maximize control is the height at which the balls of both feet can touch the ground while the child is seated on the bike. Experiment with the saddle height until you find the position that works best for your child. Once the correct height is determined, double check the alignment of the saddle with the center line of the bike. Then, make sure the minimum insertion line is not visible. Then, double check the seat collar bolt torque. Grab the pedals and locate the L on the left pedal and the R on the right pedal. The left and right pedals have opposite threads. Remove the plastic protective insert from the crank arms. Insert the left pedal into the left crank arm and use the 15mm end of the provided wrench to secure the pedal in place. The pedals should thread in easily. Tighten the pedals 1/16 of a turn past the point where you start feeling tension. Repeat these steps for the right pedal in the right crank arm. Using a Phillips screwdriver, install the front white reflector on the handlebar and the rear red reflector on the seat post. The 20-inch Riprock comes with a handbrake pre-adjusted from the factory. Brake lever reach can be adjusted by turning the thumb wheel at the front of the brake lever. After any adjustment of the brake, make sure the rear wheel spins freely. The lever should not touch the grip when the brake is applied, as this could pinch little fingers. Now that we have assembled the bike, it's critical to perform the following brief safety check before allowing your child to ride the bike. Ensure the seat post, stem, handlebar, and wheels are properly tightened. You can check the tightness of the handlebar, stem, and seat post by securing the bicycle between your legs and trying to forcefully twist the handlebars and saddle. It should take a significant amount of force. If either moves easily, realign the part, increase the bolt tension, and try again. Repeat is necessary until there is no movement. Next, check that the wheels spin freely and are centered in the frame and fork. Confirm that the secondary retention devices are securely engaged in the fork's dropout holes and the axle nuts are tight. Make sure the saddle height is correct, the minimum insertion line isn't visible, it's properly aligned with the frame, and the bolt is properly tightened. Next, ensure the coaster brake and handbrake function correctly. Next, ensure the stem and handlebar are properly aligned and the bolts are properly tightened. This concludes assembly and setup of the 20-inch Riprock. If you have any questions or concerns, contact your nearest specialized authorized retailer or rider care. More information can also be found at specialized.com. Thank you.